Hello, and today we are doing an FPL review for game week number 10, and it was another red arrow, people. I'm not liking it. This FPL season has taken an ugly turn for the worst, and we had a bit of a horror show, it's got to be said. I don't know what more to do, really. I just can't seem to stop the blanks. So, Kane blank horror, Asp benching horror, Bernardo horror, Gallagher horror, Ramsdale benching horror, the not owning Smith Rowe or Saka horror, Mbeumo benching horror, and Tony blank horror. So, look, it is a joke, my team right now, but we will get better. There's a long way to go in the season, and the goal is not out of reach. It's just been delayed slightly of that very good 100k, top 100k finish, or even better, top 30k. But let's stay grounded. Let's realise that we have got a lot of catching up to do. So let's try and just steady the ship a little bit, get closer to 100k, and then we can start thinking about better things. But look, we're doing well, to be honest, to stay inside the top million at the minute, because we are going down and down like, I don't know, it's an anchor, basically. It's just starting to decline, and it's hard to stop it, basically. But I need to stay patient, and I know that's a difficult thing to do when you see your FPL team not doing as well as you want. You want to make transfers to quickly change it, but actually those transfers in the long term could actually hurt you even more. So, look, the ultimate reality is, if I'd have rolled my transfers this week, I would have scored way more points. But I'm getting to the point now where my team's getting desperate. I've got on paper really good players, but they're just not performing. And then I'm thinking, okay, I need to get this player in. And then I'm not patient with that player who didn't perform, and then they end up scoring the week that I sell them. And that's very much true from this week's games. So, look, I need to be patient, but I also need to think, what's the best transfer in this situation? Is it the best thing to roll a transfer? Is it the best thing to make 2 transfers and take a hit? Or just the one and try and work out the best strategy? So, yeah, do let me know, guys. In my situation, what would you do? 987,000. Look, we need to be doing a lot better than that. We just need green arrows, and we haven't got that since game week 7 or game week 8. But we got 2 red arrows in a row. And basically not captaining Salah, that game week 9 fixture, against Man United, is just plummeting us in rank. And look, we've captained it ever since then. But that one week we didn't captain him against a top 6 team when, we backed Kane with the West Ham game. It really has hurt us. So, I don't know what to say, really. I think we just got to live and learn. Hopefully get better points in the next coming weeks. But it is starting to look a little bit desperate, I'll be honest. So let's go into match week number 10 then, shall we? This is how I lined up. We'll go through how I scored points and my ranks and everything after that. So we lined up with Foster in goal, a back 4 there of Rudiger, Cancelo, Livramento, Trent. Midfield, Salah on the captaincy, Rafinha and Bernardo Silva. Then the front 3, Tony, Antonio and Harry Kane. So on paper, very decent team. Ramsdale on the bench, Mbeumo, Azpilicueta and Douglas Luiz. Now, let's get into this preview by saying there was logic to my decisions, right? First of all, my transfer in of Bernardo Silva was looking at that Man City fixture swing, which was really, really nice. They'd come off the back of that really good performance against Brighton, and I wanted to own one of their players. I couldn't afford Phil Foden, so I had to settle for Bernardo Silva. And Bernardo Silva was pretty nailed. And lo and behold, he plays the whole game. But just so happens that this week I have to sell the man who's been frustrating me ever since I brought him in, because I should have picked Smith Rowe over him. It's Bukayo Saka. He's just not been returning points at all, and has not been a good FPL option. But the one week I sell him, he goes and bags an assist literally a few minutes into that Leicester game. And it wasn't really an amazing assist, just a corner. It's not going to happen every week. So that is very, very frustrating. But ultimately, Bernardo Silva, in a game against Palace where you fancy Man City to do well because they were on good form, Palace were conceding goals, not holding on to leads. Just so happens Bernardo Silva doesn't do anything, gets booked, and Palace caused the biggest upset that a lot of Man City fans wouldn't have expected, and to win that 2-0. And within that same game, it's not just the Bernardo Silva pain, It's the pain of Conor Gallagher, who, just like Bukayo Saka, was not looking a good FPL option, was looking really limited for points, and he looked like a bit of a one-game wonder after the West Ham game. I brought him in game week about 6 or 7. I'm trying to think now. No, I think I brought him in game week 7. Or no, I'm trying to work out. No, game week 7 was when I wildcarded. I don't think I had him then, but I brought him in for game week 8. I think he had Newcastle. Something like that. But yeah, it was a very recent transfer in, Gallagher. And since I had him, and actually I look back at his easier matches this season, he wasn't really performing. So I was like, what's the point of getting someone? Yes, they've got a good turn of fixtures after Man City, but even a good, run of fixtures is not going to be useful for an FPL option that's not really having many chances, having many goals. And he was, as I mentioned, doing really well in that West Ham game, but not doing a lot other than that. And at times you think, okay, the corner's going to taken off him from Milivojevic maybe. And like he's that defensive, like, I don't know, he works hard in the middle of the field, but he's not necessarily FPL points. So that's why ahead of Man City, who, the best defence in the league, along with Chelsea, it was very, very respectable to do that. But we bring in Brian and Buemo, and look, I knew fully well Buemo was probably not going to play this week, so that's why I put him first on bench, because I thought the players I want to start are looking stronger this week. But it was just a long-term transfer. I knew that Brentford's fixtures are looking really tasty, and actually for that Norwich game in game week 11, I really want a double up of Tony and Buemo, because actually they can assist each other. But the fact is, for a transfer in to get 0 points, like obviously he would have come on off the bench if he'd played, because as Azpilicueta for me started, I assumed, and pretty much everyone else assumed, he would be back in for that Newcastle game. But apparently he was rested in the game against Newcastle and benched because of it, or not playing because of an injury against Norwich. So that means, has Azpilicueta lost his place? Because Reece James is doing bits, Chilwell is doing bits. I just thought they maybe would play Reece James as like a left centre-back or a right centre-back. But I don't know, it's one game, so it's hard to know. The chances of Azpilicueta not playing for a third successive game is probably quite low. But anyway, I'm digressing. The point I'm saying is, I started Azpilicueta, so then if Azpilicueta, as he didn't play, if Mbeumo had played, he'd have come in and, done what he could as my transfer in this week. But, as it happens, Mbeumo didn't even play either. He was on the bench, but clearly not fit enough to, get any minutes, or if not, they just thought the game was done by then. Burnley were just running riot with their new Brentford goalie, Alvaro Fernandez, in goal, just conceding goals. But wasn't a good day at the office for Brentford FPL options for my team either, because I had Ivan Toney. He did absolutely nothing in a good fixture. Like, how much more patience are we gonna give to Ivan Toney? He's that frustrating player to own. I sell him game week 3 against Villa. He scores. I don't own him. He scores, he assists and gets a goal against Wolves. And it's just like he's not really. He's always involved, and he's got the thing of he's on pens, but it's just like he's playing really deep, and that's a problem. You got Mbeumo's, can't finish his dinner, but the reason I brought him in is because he's at least racking up chances. He's getting involved, and maybe Tony's not so much, so it's nice to have both of them to complement each other. But yeah, ultimately, it was a bit of a mess, because the fact was I had brought in Mbeumo and he doesn't play any minutes. Like, honestly, Gallagher, why would you have kept him for this week unless you have benched him? But my way of thinking of it is, I feel much better about selling Gallagher than if I'd have benched, because I'd lined up with Mbeumo. I think I might have started Mbeumo, but I remember I had Gallagher second sub, right? And in another situation where, say, Azpilicueta does play and Mbeumo does play, there's no way Gallagher's getting off the bench. So it feels less painful, if that makes sense, to sell Gallagher and think, okay, there was never a chance of him going to get any points in my team, than have a player on the bench and he's not getting subbed in because of players have already played and that they haven't been rested. So that's a positive in my book, but that's just my opinion. And I know what you will say is, oh, well, of course it's better to not miss out on the bench points, but at least you know that for coming game weeks that Gallagher's there. But I'm not convinced. I know the fixtures are good for Palace, but I just think he's, one of those one-off game play. He's not going to do it every week, and Palace have got better options, I think. People like Zaha, Elise. So, look, don't rush to bring him in. I think he's, certainly if you have him, you play him because of the fixtures. But I don't think it's a nightmare that I haven't got Gallagher. I just think it's unlucky. A lot of people transferred him out this week. And the other thing to say was that a lot of people benched Ramsdale this week. And that's the situation I found myself in. So let's do a bit more of an in-depth, after reacting to the original horror of this game week, an in-depth look on how I got on in game week number 10. So we'll reveal the points at the end. But look, Foster, okay, there was logic to this. Vardy was back in the Arsenal game. Vardy always scored via Arsenal. Leicester had just scored 4 against Man United. I know that they hadn't been playing the best football sometimes, but they were scoring goals. And, they had Daka, they had Iheanacho. All of them were looking decent in that, attack for Leicester. And Arsenal, they hadn't conceded many goals before that match against Crystal Palace, but then they conceded 2 and then another one against Villa. And I just thought, against Vardy, against Leicester, who are very attacking, the chances of Arsenal keeping a clean sheet is probably quite low. And I'll be honest, right? I blame FPL Juice and I blame Nick Turner for this, because he was absolutely dissing the Arsenal defence on the Game Week 10 live stream, basically saying, look, Arsenal in the last few, they haven't kept clean sheets and you're not going to want Ramsdale for this game. And that's, obviously, in hindsight, he gets save points against anyone, but a lot of people had Foster and Ramsdale as their double up, and you got to back the fixture in that situation. The outcome hasn't worked, but the decision is the better one, because on paper, Southampton was the best chance for us getting a clean sheet. I know we played poorly. I know we never looked like getting a clean sheet with how bad we were defensively, but that was a decent shout. It's just it didn't pay off, and I think Foster, maybe it's just one of those ones you just bench warms every week. But if you have got an injury or a rotation with your main goalie, then of course Foster can come in for the 2-pointer. It's just that, honestly, Ramsdale, he was playing against Leicester, and also you got to remember as well, Broja was out for Southampton. So I was thinking, we did just concede 2 goals against Everton, but I still thought at home with Broja out, Armstrong not doing much recently, Ward-Prowse only just coming back. Southampton weren't scoring goals after goals. So they only did get 1, and it was a good goal from Che Adams. But, it's unfortunate. So 2 points from Foster. He wasn't great in the game, but he wasn't the worst player either. 2 points. It is what it is. We backed the Watford's clean sheets. I think I'm so optimistic for my team, and sometimes that does come at my detriment because we don't actually do as well as I think we will. But no, don't worry. Ramsdale will be back in soon enough. But it's a shame because I think Foster he saved a penalty against Adam Armstrong against Blackburn last season, and I was thinking most people probably will if they have Ramsdale and then a 4-mil goalie other than Foster, who probably is not a playing goalie like Jed Steer or I don't know, Steele or whoever it is. They'll probably play Ramsdale. Fair enough. He's still a good FPL asset. That's why I own him. But you got to target fixtures when you don't predict a clean sheet for a certain team, and that's the week that I did it, and it really bit me in the bum. We'll talk about that in a mo. But defensive wise, look, not too bad. Okay, 2 clean sheets out of 4. I didn't start Livramento because, as I mentioned, I backed Foster for the clean sheet. I backed a 1-0 Watford, and it was unfortunately 1-0 Southampton. But that's the beauty of Livramento. He's so good. And yeah, he could have got more attacking returns, but we'll take the clean sheet. We have looked pretty up and down Watford, so I guess there was always a chance of that. But that's why you have Livramento first sub. He's just so reliable. And Rudiger the same. Look, you kind of want an attacking return against Newcastle, but you take the 6 points at the end of the day. Rudiger's so nailed. And someone like Mason Mount in the rest of the Chelsea team who didn't play, you kind of think, thank goodness I didn't go there, because he was getting a lot of hype pre-game week. But in terms of defensive for Chelsea, Rudiger's the most nailed. In terms of attacking threat, you'd say James and Chilwell, but there is risk with Chilwell, especially if Tuchel wants to play a bit of Alonso when they're up against taller teams like Burnley, for instance, next week. But Azpilicueta did score in their game last season, and that means they could play Alonso and Azpilicueta, but then you'd argue Reece James is undroppable and Chilwell's in such good form. So Tuchel's got a really big headache, and this is why it's the Tuchel tombola. But I'll take the clean sheet points for Rudiger. That's all really we were looking for. Cancelo also is a bit of a pep roulette there, but luckily not affecting Cancelo. It's just the last 2 weeks really frustrating. Clean sheet wipeouts. You'd think that they do that, less regularly basically, but the last 2 games, Brighton is unlucky because they were looking good before that. And Cancelo's got attacking threat. Like, he does take a lot of shots. He puts in balls, and sometimes they'll bounce for the striker and it will go in, but ultimately, he's not been doing it recently for my team, and that's a real shame. But who could have seen that Palace game, coming? That was a big upset, and obviously the red card for Laporte had a big role to play. So it's a shame, but it really is not what we want to see from Cancelo. And then finally, Trent. Now, Trent, obviously, you wouldn't have backed before the game week that City and Liverpool would both not keep clean sheets. And to concede 2 as well for Trent is a bit of a surprise, but his attacking threat is there. It is there for all to see. It's just not happened in that one game, but he's still so good to own. Be patient, and yeah, the defence has taken a bit of a battering. No attacking returns this week, but at least a few clean sheets thrown in there for good measure. Salah. Now, this is a bit disappointing. Brighton at home. You could argue you should have seen that Brighton were looking like a sturdy defence, but yeah, 5 points. All right, he's not blanked, but it's just limited from what we know Salah can do. He had chances as well, but it just didn't quite happen. He got a nice assist for Henderson's goal, but it really was a bit quiet from Liverpool, and Brighton played well, to be fair to them. So yeah, we'll take the assist from Salah, but it's not amazing. Rafinha, obviously the optimal captain this week, but you would have backed Salah every day, and Rafinha had an injury doubt anyway, so I'm glad that I did put the faith that he'd play and that he'd do something against Norwich. It was such a good fixture. You kind of think if he hadn't have played that, it would have been such a shame. You kind of want to hold him for that kind of match, and he produced the goods. 9 points, very, very good. And I think I got two bonuses from him. A really good individual goal, and hopefully that'll kickstart a bit of form. But it's not ideal Leeds fixtures coming up in the game week 11 onwards. Bernardo Silva, that we mentioned it, that's just an unlucky transfer. Like, he's on paper a really nice differential, but gets booked, really unlucky, and also manages to just do nothing. And Man City, look, this is why I brought him in, right? Because he's played pretty much every single game other than Spurs, where I think, it was very early in the season. He'd just come back from the Euros with Portugal. I still think he's a good pick. I think he's very differential, and look at these fixtures in game week 14 onwards, really, really looking nice. So Bernardo Silva, might have to be patient with him, but it didn't really work this week, especially as part of a -4. It just seems whenever I take a -4 hit, they don't seem to work, the transfers, and that's a shame. But look, it's maybe a good pick for long term. It's just Foden didn't do any better, so I'm not too hurt by that. Tony, front man for Brentford, right? He's not really doing the FPL points, and that's a bit of a frustrating one. I think a lot of people are losing patience, but look, when we lost patience in game week 2, then we were punished. So the fixtures are good for Brentford. You've got to remember that. Still, Norwich is his best chance of scoring and actually finally delivering. Newcastle's a good one as well, but then would you really want him after that? Everton, Spurs, maybe. Everton have been quite leaky recently. Leeds are the same, and obviously Watford, from a Brentford point of view, is still a good fixture. So he's a frustrating player to own. He's a bit like Lukaku, really. When he had good fixtures, you justify keeping him in because of the fixtures, even though there's a lack of form there. But you've said with someone like Salah, you back form over fixtures for something like captaincy. So with Salah, you keep him in because he's amazing. With Tony, do you keep him in because the fixtures? Is that enough to make him a good FPL asset? I don't know. He's having chances, that's the thing. Like, he had a good chance against Burnley and Pope saved it, but it's very, very limited stuff, really. So hopefully, with Mbeumo hopefully being back for Norwich, then we can see Tony and him link up against Norwich. Like, that's going to be a best chance of a big haul. Like, Norwich is so poor. Antonio, really frustrating. Now, I shouldn't have picked him as vice captaincy. Luckily, it didn't get to that point. Salah obviously is nailed on, but yeah, he was not exactly an ideal situation because 4 goals against Villa. He's not involved in one of them, and he gets the assist for that last goal from a bit of Jared Bowen. So yeah, really frustrating. Like, if he'd have just shot from that position, like he could have easily done. And then he passes to Lanzini. At least shoot Lanzini. But no, Lanzini just has to be falling down as he has it. And then he passed it to Bowen. So Antonio, still very good to own. There's not many better players for his price. And he can score against tougher teams. We've seen it v Spurs, v Man City in the past, and he's got Liverpool next. He does like to score against them, but the point is he is just starting to get frustrating because he's blanking off and on, and the fixtures are, as I mentioned, aren't exactly good for that West Ham team. And obviously he's getting rest in the Europa League, which is good. We want to keep those hamstrings in place. We don't want to see them once again ping off, but he's still a good FPL asset. I think just a bit of a fluctuating one. Now Harry Kane, look, we want to have him for these fixtures coming up. It's not ideal. Spurs did look awful against Man United, but I'm not going to panic too much. I think Kane's going to become a better asset now Conte's gone. So I think, look, the Man United game, like, there was no doubting he was poor. Spurs were poor in general, but hopefully that Nuno can turn something around there. So yeah, not great really. Let's talk about my bench. Ramsdale is the elephant in the room, of course, but at least we own him. Like, we know that he's a good asset. That's why we own him. Just the fixture, just unfortunate. And that's why I don't like a rotating goalie. Now, this is not really rotating goalies because we're going to play Ramsdale most weeks. But on weeks that Ramsdale does have a really tough fixture, you kind of think, oh, might as well make the use of Foster. And that's what we had this week. So, I think it's not what we want to see, but Ramsdale is still very good. So on weeks that Watford have a really good fixture, like, say, Norwich, you got to kind of give a shout out to Ramsdale because he could easily match him if not get better. Like, we've not kept clean sheets. So, yeah, Ramsdale is so good. Like, what a save that was from the free kick. Unbelievable stuff. So, to have 10 points on the bench, of course, you don't want to see it. It is a real shame. And it's a real shame what happened to Saka, in terms of just not getting his points. And Smith Rowe, I mentioned him last few weeks. He's punished me for not bringing him in. So, it was a nightmare, really, that game week 10 game. But, look, Arsenal have got a decent fixture from their point of view against Watford next week. So, Ramsdale, you're not going to leave my team. You're a class player, but it's just that this week we had to move on from this one and forget about the slight mistake here. And Buemo, 0 points, as we mentioned, not ideal, but it's a long-term buy. As Pilaqueta, okay, it wasn't the worst thing, actually, that they both didn't play, those two, because then Livramento came in as an auto sub. But it's just like you back a clean sheet for them against Newcastle, Chelsea, and obviously I would have got a double up in the clean sheets if that's the case. But you're never going to not play Cancelo for his attacking threat, and the same goes with Trent. So it's not too bad. Like, Azpilicueta might just sleep on that one. And Douglas Luiz, he didn't actually play the game. I didn't realise he was injured, but he didn't play in the match against West Ham. But we would never have played him anyway. So yeah, all in all, not a good week, but it is above average, and we actually scored the same points as FPL Nymphria this week. If you don't know her, absolute legendary videos she does on her channel, do check it out on YouTube. So that made me feel a little bit better when I found out about that. But, people like FPL, Let's Talk FPL Andy, gone for Rafinha, selling, and then bring in Foden. So, like, it's relatable. A lot of people backed Man City this week. A lot of people sold Rafinha and benched Ramsdale and, everything like that. So it's not a nightmare, right? A lot of people probably sold Gallagher. It's just that it really hurts when my team is already in a bad position. I've just compounded it, really. So in terms of a game week rank, 4,114,282. Not good at all, really. And the -4 points, like, in hindsight, they were good transfers, but after hindsight, they were unfortunate transfers, but in theory, they were decent moves. I just needed a Man City attacker, and I thought that Gallagher wouldn't punish me. I thought that Saka wouldn't punish me, and look what they did. So 116 points, well done to the highest scorer of the game week. I mean, who actually has Declan Rice in their FPL team? Let's be honest, right? And who captains an Arsenal defender against Leicester? Nobody, but fair enough. They also had Ramsdale 10 points on the bench, and they have Mendy. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't like rotating goalies. It is a bit of a nightmare. Like, my team is so strong in terms of depth enough that I've got a benching dilemma each week. But that's fine. I'd rather that than have a really weak bench, and then when players don't play, I've got nothing to help me. Like, I'd rather, have rough with the smooth and kind of think, yeah, I've got players to come in, and actually people like Livramento are so good off the bench. But at the end of the day, like, I don't want to go with a rotating goalie. That's why I've basically got Ramsdale most weeks, because if I say went with someone else at the similar price point, so like the new Brentford goalie or, I don't know, Sanchez maybe with better fixtures, you could argue with better fixtures than Foster and Ramsdale. But it's like I'll always be so unsure of, do I pick Ramsdale this week? Do I pick Sanchez when they've got both good fixtures? So I might have to just leave it on Ramsdale, but he's got Liverpool coming up soon, so it's not ideal stuff. But yeah, it's a very interesting game week. After the hit, of course, it's a score of 39 points, so not my finest work for sure. We needed that kind of green arrow to bounce back from last week. We didn't get it, and 606 points overall. My rank, though, is 987,393, so we've dropped again, people. Not good at all. We were previously ranked 800 and something rank, 866,782, so yeah, it's not great really. We've gone down by about, I'm not sure, I can't even do the maths, about 120k. Not good at all. Yeah, I just don't know why it's going wrong, but we just got to, keep on pushing, keep on going. And this was the week, unfortunately, with the most points on my bench, but that was all just Ramsdale. So yeah, it is what it is. The -4 is just hurting me these days, so I might have to roll a transfer. I don't even know at this point, but there's some fires to put out for sure. So yeah, thanks for watching my FPL review for Game Week 10. I hope you have enjoyed. Do go to smash a like on it, of course, and do comment how you got on in Game Week 10. It was a bit of a meh game week for a lot of people, especially with only 5 points from Mo Salah. So I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.